Right, 29 August 2024. And today I would like to give you a more comprehensive update on what has happened at Springs. And this is with regards to the banned victims. So that is people that were banned during the raid by South Africa Home Affairs, by the South African Police, South African Metro, and also the South African military. So in front of me here, I'm displaying the patch or the piece of dam where these guys were torched. So a fire was set inside this grass where the Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, and Malawians were hiding from the raid. So there has been an update, and I'm going to provide you with some comprehensive information of what has taken place today. So let's start with the police. So the police, that is the South African police, have not yet returned to this place to find out what has happened. They've not done an investigation. So it's not clear how many bodies are still within this water or within the sewage, which is over there. However, in terms of relatives, people who were looking for their relatives, my understanding is that everyone has now found their relative. Everyone now knows what happened to their relative. And also, there are reports that there are more people that are appearing at hospitals. That means people had originally gone somewhere else and are now appearing at hospitals. So today, more people appeared at hospitals and are getting treatment. I can unfortunately not share the pictures because I've not been cleared to share those pictures that we have. But there are pictures of people that have now appeared at hospitals this evening. And those people are seriously hurt. So I don't know if someone was hurt and they went home and then the relatives now said, let's take them back to get proper treatment, or if they're coming from another smaller hospital and are being taken or transferred to a bigger hospital. So what have the people been doing? The people who are affected, as you know, that we lost one confirmed person, that is Tinashe Masedze, passed away in the fire. And there has been a group that has been opened where there is a collection of money for transporting the body to Zimbabwe. So I'm going to give you guys the number if you are interested to make a donation. So you can WhatsApp me privately and I'll give you the number of the person who is taking the donations. So that is the number here. And I'll give you guys the number if you want to make a donation for Tinashe Masedze to be taken home, or if you want to assist altogether. But there are people who you can talk to, people like Nancy. You can give him a call and he will tell you who to talk to regarding this case. Then the other issue I wanted to talk about here is a police case has still not been made, or a police report has still not been made regarding the people that were banned, because people are afraid to go to the police or to the army or to the human rights organizations because they do not have documentation. So in the case of Tinashe here, he's been killed in this attack or in this raid. So obviously this is a human rights issue, and the South African bodies involved, they are responsible for this situation, and they need to come to the assistance of this family. So I do not know who these guys can approach within the South African structures so that they can get assistance. I do not know if it was documented, and I do not know what part the Zimbabwean consulate is playing with regards to Tinashe Masedze, who passed away. He passed away at the scene. And the report that I get is that there are two other people who passed away, whose bodies were taken away. And there's a child who passed away. So it's not yet clear how many people have passed away during this raid. And all we can see right now is this dam, which is still not explored. No one has gone in here to explore to find out how many people are in here in this dam. However, as I said, relatives who were looking for their people, they found them. But as you are aware, there are many people who live in South Africa whose relatives do not know where they are and who also don't have relatives. So there is going to be more clarity if the police get involved. If the South African police get involved and they go in there, and also the South African military give an update to say what has happened and who gave this order to burn this dam, because this is obviously illegal. You cannot touch a dam where people are hiding. I don't know if that is clear, but you cannot put fire or put grass on fire when you know that 300 people are hiding behind that fire, that grass. That is obviously illegal. There's no country where it's allowed to do that, no matter whether the people are illegal or not. That is not legal. That is not allowed. And I don't think there's any training that says if you're in the army, you can touch grass when people are behind it. So I think that is clear that there's a problem there. And the South African Defense Force needs to make a statement or investigate what happened regarding this raid so that this doesn't happen again in future raids. Then in terms of the community where this happened, there is an engagement between the Zimbabweans and the community of Daggerfontein regarding the next steps. And the community is obviously not happy with what the police, the army, the metro, and immigration have done in Home Affairs. However, my understanding is that there's a disagreement on how to proceed, with members of the community saying the people that were banned must not sue the South African government for their injuries. However, I think that is not the correct way to go. I would like to encourage everyone to sue the South African government and also to find a lawyer so that this can be done. So I don't think this can just be left to go. So there must be some legal action of some sort to be taken against the South African government for what has happened at Springs and Daggerfontein. So the guys who are involved, who were injured, they need to come out and make sure that they are properly represented and take a case against the police, against the metros, against the army, and against the immigration and Home Affairs. So there must be proper action taken against people who do these kind of things. I've often said that it's better to stop the young Zimbabweans from getting into South Africa. So fix the situation at Beitbridge. There is massive corruption at Beitbridge. So take the soldiers there. Make sure that there's one soldier standing behind the Home Affairs officials so that they don't allow the young guys in, and make sure that there are proper number of soldiers at the border, on the river, so that only legal people get here. And if you don't want people in South Africa, make the announcement that illegal people must go home. And let's not have situations where people are being thrown off buildings, or people are being torched with the fire, or people are being kept in cells. Across South Africa, there is a massive number of young Zimbabweans sitting in police cells without trial for months. And this has been happening. I said this last year. There is a lot of young Zimbabweans, especially if you look at Johannesburg, who are just picked up on a Friday and they're kept in police stations until they pay, then they are released. And this happens over and over again. I discussed this issue last year when one of the guys who worked for me in Johannesburg was picked up, and they kept him for a whole weekend until I went to the police station. On arrival at the police station, the guys made a demand for a bribe of 2,000 rands from the wife. And until that money was released, that guy was not released. And this is happening at a massive number of police stations across South Africa. This is not legal, and this is not a way to treat people. It's holding people at ransom, even though they're illegally inside the country. We need to follow a process, and it's not a process to touch people or to use people for bribes or to allow people to enter the country illegally. Those are the issues that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed holistically, not in this manner, the manner that is happening now, where there is a knee-jerk reaction from Home Affairs to try to appear as if they're addressing a problem when they are not addressing the problem. So this is a bigger issue. It's not just Springs. This is across the whole country. There needs to be a sort of like organized way of responding to immigration, but not by banning people. That is totally illegal to do that. So my understanding is that some newspapers have arrived at the scene today. So tomorrow we're going to look at the local newspapers. They're going to start reporting on this story tomorrow. So let's see what details they've got and what officials they've managed to talk to. But what is currently pending and what needs to be done right now is for the police to go over and make sure that the site is checked. How many people are still inside this dam who were burned and died inside the dam? When I look at the faces of the people that are coming out, most of them have got upper body burns, which means they were trying to hide inside the dam or at the bottom of the dam. And by the time the fire engulfed them, it was too much for them to move away, because most of them are burnt on the hands, on the face, and mostly on the upper body. So that is where the injuries are. And it shows that people were burnt when they were submerged in the water. And it means there could be quite a number of people who are still underneath this water because the grass was burnt and the grass caused the water to boil, and the grass also burnt people who were in here. So this is the way it happened. And there's no nice way of saying it. There's no way of excusing what is happening or of trying to explain what has happened. The officials within these organizations that were involved, they need to account for what has happened, because it's not allowed to use a fire on a person. You take them to court. You do not put them on fire. So I think we've managed to clarify everything here. Let me see if I can find any other information that has come up. As I said, tomorrow there'll be more clarity. There are people that are going to be following up. But currently, Tinashe Masedze's funeral contributions are now happening. And you can call me or WhatsApp me on the number I've given you, so that I can give you the number of the persons to talk to if you want to make a donation. And I'm sure the Zimbabwean consulate is going to do something. They usually get involved in the processing of papers, and I'm sure they'll be involved. At the moment, the Zimbabwean consulate has not made a statement. I've not seen a statement from the Zimbabwe consulate regarding this case. So let's see if they've made a statement so that we don't talk before. So it's Zimbabwe consulate. Normally, if you go on the Facebook page of Zimbabwe consulate, you'll be able to get a statement. And I want to see if they've said anything here. So that is the one in Bruma. So the last statement that they made here was on 27 August. And I'm not seeing anything later than that. There's no post that I'm seeing regarding the situation at Springs. So I don't know if I'm missing something, but they have not said anything. Right, so I think we've covered everything here for today. That is the update that I've got. Let's continue to keep this story in front of everyone's mind. And as I said, tomorrow the big thing is Tinashe Masedze's contributions. Then the police must be approached. A formal police case must be opened so people who are under the dam can be found. And there must be a police report which people can take to hospital, which people can take to the lawyers. So you need to make a formal police report, because when you eventually go to the police and when you want to go and sue the South African government, you're going to need that letter that comes from the police that explains how you were injured and how you got the injuries that you've got. Some of the injuries are very bad. And some of the people that I've seen, I think the first two bodies, it was very bad. It's something that you cannot even look at. So the guys who are going to the police, make sure you get that letter and distribute it to everyone who's been burned in that fire, so that when they go to a hospital or eventually when they need to claim for disability, they can do it because they were injured during an operation of the South African government. So let's look at the comments. Mukoma Munashe says, it goes back to our ruthless government. Yes, Mnangagwa Arkuraiva Nenzara. If Mnangagwa was not doing what he's doing in Zimbabwe, then people will not come here. But the South African government is also not doing their part. I've written to President Cyril Ramaphosa last month, explaining that the 160 people who are jailed right now, young activists, Mnangagwa is cracking down ruthlessly on young Zimbabweans, and it's causing young Zimbabweans to flock down here into South Africa. If Zimbabwe was doing well, no one would leave their family to come and dig for gold in a mountain when they cannot even afford bus fare home. It means they are scraping the bottom of the barrel. There is no one who's doing well digging gold in South Africa. Mkomanyasha says, inhuman way of treating people, yes, this has to be taken to the courts, and the South African government must be sued. Say Gambakwe, you employ an illegal immigrant. No, I do not employ an illegal immigrant. He was not holding his papers when he was at that time. So if you're moving, let's say you're going all over the place and you're working in a field, you don't hold your documents everywhere you go. So if the South African police find you, what they're supposed to do is ask you if you've got papers, take you to a police station, and if you do not have your papers there, they must ask someone from home to bring those papers. What these guys did, they took this young guy, they didn't tell us where they were going with him, they disappeared with him. We started to look for him at all the police stations in South Africa, in Gauteng. We were looking all over the place. Eventually, after 3 days, we found him. And when we found him, we then presented the documents that he had, and the police had already demanded a bribe from the wife. This is happening across South Africa. Everywhere you go right now, at police stations, you simply have to drive to any police station in Limpopo or in Gauteng and ask if there are any illegal immigrants. And you will find at least 3 or 4 illegal immigrants in there. And some of them have been moved to a different province where they are put in a cell for months, up to 6 months. They've been kept for up to 6 months inside those cells. And they've talked about this last year. And then Mkoma Sticks says, Gambakwe, Springs, this thing is very sensitive. That's why you see all the local media are quiet as if nothing happened. So beware, my brother, he himself, they kill you. No, don't be afraid, Mkoma Sticks. We need to make sure that immigration is addressed properly. The DA has got a new minister in Home Affairs, and he's trying to fix the situation in Home Affairs. You cannot fix the situation by taking such methods. And you must understand, there is a law in South Africa on immigration. That law must be obeyed. It doesn't say if you find an illegal immigrant hiding behind grass, you must take a match and torch it. That's what I'm trying to explain here. There is a law, and the law starts on when a Zimbabwean enters South Africa. When a Zimbabwean enters South Africa, they must have a proper document to enter South Africa. Your guy at Home Affairs or at the border at immigration, if he sees a guy who is trying to get in without papers, he must turn him back home. At the moment, that is not happening. When your guy sees a Zimbabwean who's got no papers at Beitbridge, he's allowing him to enter into South Africa, causing the downstream problem that we're seeing now, where a lot of people are in the country illegally. And secondly, when you catch an illegal Zimbabwean guy, or you find illegal guys standing at the corner of the street, you call the responsible authorities and take them into jail, or put them in a truck and deport them back home, and make sure they don't come back. Not burning them with the grass, like what has happened this weekend. So do not be afraid. And that is my job, to make sure that I communicate these things effectively. There is nothing called local media. Media is media these days, internationally. Today we've had over 100,000 people viewing this story. So the social media is bigger than local media. You can believe what I'm saying here. And the guys who deal with officials, they know what I'm talking about, and they're watching you right now. A lot of them are going to watch this thing, and there are people who know what needs to be done. To fix immigration, you need to follow a process. You need to find out where you are now, what is going wrong, and fix that thing. There are issues with the ZEP, the issues with the people who are undocumented, the issues with deportations, and the issues with corruption. All those issues need to be dealt with. and they need to be dealt with once and for all. We can't have this thing that was happening when our grandfathers were coming to South Africa, still happening now in 2024. The same thing that was happening in the 60s, where Zimbabweans were flocking to South Africa to work in the mines. We have the same situation right now. We need to address this problem, and this cannot be allowed to continue forever. Then I want to go to, well, let's see if there's anyone who wants to talk about the red scarf. Red scarf, which party do you support now? Gambakwe. The scarf is just for you to see that in the morning I was wearing something different. Otherwise, you won't know, because we produce so many videos. And it's summer and I've got an overcoat. Because where I'm sitting here is like minus 7 degrees or something. It's very cold. Right, I think we've covered everything. I hope that everyone understands the situation. It's not a matter of life and death to be an illegal immigrant. If you're an illegal immigrant, you are an illegal immigrant, but it doesn't mean you must be killed. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And the communities must understand. The police must play their part, immigration must play their part, Home Affairs must play their part, and the guys at the border must play their part. This business of putting immigration in small portions, like one bit of action there and one bit of action there, won't work. We need a holistic plan. And this includes addressing the situation in the Mnangagwa. The South African government cannot look away from the human rights abuses taking place in Zimbabwe, which is right now the leader of the opposition, Timber, has been in jail for over 70 days for no reason. Ngarivumi, another leader of the opposition, has been in jail for over 70 days for no reason. 78 young people who were at a meeting celebrating June 16 were arrested for sitting and having a braai on June 16. And I've written to President Cyril Ramaphosa on this. I'm not talking about something theoretical. A letter is there right now at President Cyril Ramaphosa's office, which I sent. I then traveled to Botswana to see President Masisi. And I left a letter at SADC. I wrote a letter to President Masisi. I then traveled to Zambia. And during that time, I also wrote a letter to President Hakainde Hichilema regarding the arrested people, including the bishop here, Bishop Nyamakanga, has been languishing in jail for over 23 days after being arrested by Mnangagwa ahead of the SADC summit. I am talking about things I know. Namatai Kwekweza, Robson Chere, Vusumuzi Moyo, for over, I think this is now 30 days since they were arrested. They were pulled off a plane at the Harare International Airport by Mnangagwa's agents. They were tortured heavily for a whole weekend before they were taken to court, and they've never been seen again ever since. There is massive human rights abuses taking place in Zimbabwe, massive hunger. That is why young guys are coming down here. And what you need to do is, on top of addressing all the immigration issues, you must also address the situation in Zimbabwe. Because people like myself are able to do all these things because we're not arrested in South Africa. People in Zimbabwe are not able to do the same. They're not going to be able to demand answers from Mnangagwa, because as soon as they make a sound, they're going to be arrested, they'll be thrown in jail, and they'll never come out for months and months. The last guy who was arrested, Job Scala, stayed in jail for more than 300 days. An MP and a lawyer of Mo Blessing Ali, who was killed and thrown into a pit. I'm telling you things here that the South African government is well aware of. Multiple people have written letters to the South African government regarding these situations. So let's not just say illegal immigrants. What is the part of the South African government in this situation? Because there is a part that they're playing, which makes people flock into South Africa, flock into Botswana, flock into Zambia. You cannot believe there are more illegal immigrants in Zambia from Zimbabwe, probably, than in Botswana, because of the current situation we have. In Mozambique, it's the same. In Namibia has got such a small population. At one point, there were almost half the population of Namibia was Zimbabweans. This is how bad the situation is for the Southern African region. And the SADC leaders, they continue to look away. as this thing happens. As this situation deteriorates, they want to go and ban the victim. So right now we are banning the victim in South Africa instead of addressing Mnangagwa, who is the problem, and Mnangagwa, who is the SADC chairman. After we lobbied for such a long time for Mnangagwa not to be made chairman of SADC, SADC has put out a report that shows that in the past election in August 2023, the election was not credible. 17 out of 20 criteria of a valid and legitimate elections was not met. So I don't know if I can keep going. And as I was said, I was at the SADC head office myself. I went there to SADC to talk to these guys about it. We have done everything that is humanly possible to make sure that these things are addressed. But this has not been addressed. The whole situation is only handled at the point of failure, which is down here, when people are now immigrating just to get something to eat. If the situation in Zimbabwe is fixed, within a week, there'll be no Zimbabwean illegal immigrant in this country. People will go home. There's nothing here that they're getting. They're not getting rich, working at the gold mine, scraping for a few pieces of gold rock. So I think I've covered this here. I'll be back in the morning as we give you the update. Let me give you an update in the morning on the news of everything that is trending in Zimbabwe. Some commentators saying Zimbabwe situation is not normal, but spiritual. You go to Zimbabwe, it's a torture in foreign countries. Same, what we do, oh Lord. You are saying we're being tortured in Zimbabwe and outside. South African government is complicit in the Zimbabwean suffering. They will turn a blind eye to this godforsaken act. I hope not. I hope the South African police and the South African military, the good thing is that the South African military is involved. I'm sure they are going to take action on this situation. Right, I would like to thank all of you, and please WhatsApp me for the details. If you want to contribute to the funeral of Tinashe, WhatsApp me on that number, and we'll give you the contact of the person who's collecting the funds. And then tomorrow we're going to give you a better update in the evening regarding what has happened at the hospitals. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and a good night.